Welcome to the Q&A with the Noble 24th. Today we have a relatively new recruit. We have Private Chris Franqui. Thanks for being here and doing this with us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we're just going to jump straight into it. Out of all of the hobbies that you could choose from, what was it about reenacting that drew you here?
I like the idea of getting into something that was outdoors, that was active, rather than a lot of other hobbies, which tend to be more sedentary in the house. I wanted something that got not only me out of the house, my kids could also get involved in, that got them away from computers and video games and televisions. And I just felt, reenacting was a great way to do that. It was educational, it's physical, and it's a lot of fun. And it just kind of met all those requirements for us.
Okay. And then what is it about like the War of American Independence, the American Revolution, the late 18th century that made you want to do it?
A big thing was I love the clothing aesthetic. I love how people dressed back then. It was so different than it is today. It just looks really good. I also love the history. There's so much that we owe today, to that time period. So I wanted to learn more about it. And I found through reenacting my other time period that the best way to really understand and kind of get in the headspace of someone from that period experiencing that event is to do the reenacting and really kind of see for yourself first person, like, wow, okay, this is what it's like. And the late 18th century just really kind of hit that for me hard. And I just love it.
Okay. But now, would you consider this a hobby or is it a lifestyle?
I say hobby, although I think everyone around me would say lifestyle. It gets into everything I do. My house is just covered with my 18th century gear. We got original stuff. We got reproduction stuff we've made ourselves. I like singing a lot of the folk songs and things like that of the time period. When I'm at work, I'm usually singing 18th century songs or listening to 18th century music in my car. So it's pretty much worked its way to everything I do at this point. So I have to go with lifestyle.
Okay. That's been the common choice so far. But now, why the 24th? Besides being the best group, I'm gonna be a bit biased in that, but what was it really about this group that drew you to it?
It was a bunch of things. I mean, my first introduction was I was at a history fair and I met with a few members and spoke to them. And I hadn't had a chance to really meet anybody from an 18th century group yet at that point. I loved not only the uniforms, I'm a big fan of green, love green. So it worked out very well. But as I researched you guys more, I was like, I loved what I was reading. A really good image in the general community. I just read just so many good things about the 24th. You guys really tried hard to update. There's always something. Hey, we found out something new. We're going to change this. We're going to change that. Let's try, pacing our steps to get the steps right. I love that attention to detail and always trying to improve the impression and keep everybody, on the same path, as opposed to some other groups that maybe kind of float around a little bit more, a little bit looser with their interpretation. And the 24th just really is a really quality when it comes to that. And besides, all the guys and women in this group are just so awesome and fun to be around that it was an easy choice.
And now, what would be your favorite event? It could be something that like is one single event that like really is crystallized in your head, or if you have like a favorite annual event, like what is the pick one of those, but give me one of them.
Well, let's see. I mean, the first one that stood out was Hubbardton for me because that was the first major event I ever went to, period, in any reenacting. I'd never been on a battlefield with that many people with guns, the big guns going off. And being in a tactical situation, it was a lot of fun. But the one that I think will always be my absolute favorite was Ticonderoga, when we were taking the fort from the Continentals, going through the woods and in trail formation and seeing the native irregulars off between the trees, and then hearing the first pops of gunfire, hearing the war whoops, and hearing the officers giving orders and the smoke. And it was just the most amazing and immersive experience I've ever had. At that point, I'm like, oh my God, I love this. This is so cool. So I think Ticonderoga, it takes a very solid lead, but it is hard to distill just down to one.
It is. And just for anyone in case who's watching this that maybe doesn't know exactly what he meant by trail formation, it's when soldiers go in single file. That's just what they called it. Just in case anyone doesn't know. But then what would be the best thing then about reenacting that you can think of?
I'm sorry, can you pose a question again?
Well, it's just like, from the hobby itself, right? Like there's got to be something that really holds you to it. Like you've explained what drew you to it. You've explained why
Mhm.
you're joined the 24th, but now that you're in it, now that you've done it, what is the best thing?
The people. Uh, it's not always easy to find people who are, as into history, as I am, and we can just talk about it and just immerse yourself in it and just go on ad nauseum to a point where most people are like, oh my God, I don't want to hear it anymore. But I mean, just the this being surrounded by people who have the same mindset, who also know a whole bunch of things. I mean, that's really the absolute best thing that I've experienced with this group.
And we have to talk about the flip side of that, but like
Yeah.
there's obviously aspects that are not quite as enjoyable. And what would be like the top one for you that is just the thing that's just not fun? No matter how many times you have to do it, you just slog through it to get it over with.
Well, getting the car packed up, either going to or coming back from, deciding what to bring. Always have more plans in my head of what I want to do, and then it just really doesn't happen. So getting packed up and coming to an event can sometimes be quite the event in itself, especially with kids and family all coming too. That's probably the one part that's like, okay, this part stinks. I wish we could snap fingers. Here we are, but
Mhm.
it's the traveling to and from events that usually is the hardest.
And there has to be something that doesn't really like annoy you, but there's got to be something that kind of like irks you. It's like it's not a deal breaker. You can put up with it. It's like a pet peeve, right? Like what would
Right.
be that for you?
Wow. I being asked if I'm Confederate or Union when I'm wearing a British uniform, or when I'm wearing a Union uniform, asking if I fought the British today. Uh, it's just I know a lot of reenactors have the same issue, but that one's kind of rough. It's like the redcoats are coming. Come on, this is redcoats, you know. So that's a
Mhm.
little bit of one, but it's not a horrible thing to deal with.
Well, it's just a pet peeve.
Yeah.
And now we do eat very well as a regiment.
Yes.
We
Yes.
have both immersive meals where we ate soldier stew, and we've had things where we are a little bit more, nice. What would you say would be the meal that you've had that you remember the most?
When we did the Noble 24th weekend, I think I can't remember if it was 2 years ago. I don't think it was last year, it was the year before. The last year we did before the COVID shut everything down. When we had the actual list of what the soldiers had on them at Saratoga, and we made a meal based on that. And I got to take a turn helping to, prep the soup at the fire. Uh, I had never had some of the things that were in that soup before. It was so good, and just knowing that we cooked it out there on the fire and this was authentic, it was really good, and I'll always remember that. It's a great memory.
And now the last question that's on my list here. What is some of your advice for someone who's just dipping their toes into the hobby? What can they do next?
I would say first, get online, do a lot of research, find out what groups are around, what groups maybe in your area. Facebook is a great way to get in touch with a lot of these groups. And obviously, as reenactors, we like talking to people. We want people to ask questions. So asking a question, hey, what's it like to join your group? Do I need to have equipment before I start? Does this particular unit have loaner gear? Some units do, some units don't. And just find out, what an average weekend is like, to determine whether it is something that's for you or not for you. So just reaching out and research. Internet's a great thing, but even better is going to an event and actually asking people, what would I need to do if I wanted to do what you're doing? And guarantee they're going to want to answer, because we love talking about it.
Okay. And as a little bonus question, I think you already said it, but I just have to make sure. What is your favorite color?
I gotta go with, I love the willow green, and back with red, it's the
There,
best color in the world.
there was a right answer to that question, and you got it. So congratulations. So thank you again, Private Frankly, for being here and doing this. We do appreciate your answers. If anyone watching is actually interested in joining the 24th, we have all our available links. We have our website. As mentioned, we have a Facebook. We have some more kind of direct conversations like emails and all this type of stuff. So please feel free to ask any questions. We love to talk, but we really want a lot of good people to join this unit. So once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. And Chris, we'll see you on the fields.
See you then.